Welcome in, episode number 42, ladies and gentlemen. We are here at the St0ner Sports Radio Podcast. One with me is Zach. We will head to the SEC and give you win totals for the last Power 5 conference before Week 1 starts next week. We will go over some new uniform hype, NFL preseason, and we'll give you our Week 1 expectations for OU football as they take on Arkansas State on September 2nd. Zach, how are we doing on this Be Happy Sunday afternoon?
We are doing good. We are doing great, actually. We get to talk about how Georgia's going to win 13 games this year. And then we get to talk about how the rest of the SEC is going to underperform.
Yeah,
it's going to be great.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be one of the topics that I'm sure we'll get into here. Let's go ahead and I'll give you the floor here. So Week 1 for the OU Sooners is going to be against Arkansas State. This is Red Wolves have beaten Texas A&M in the past to open up the season and shocked them in the past. What are we expecting here Week 1 in the Palace? I mean, this is definitely an OU team that has expectations, through the roof, as far as the Kool-Aid that's been thrown on this. I'll give you the line here for their Week 1 game here. It is minus 33.5. They are favored by almost 5 touchdowns here against the Red Wolves with an over/under of 61. So they think this score is going to be like, I don't know, 56 to 7 or something like that. I mean, this is 56-14 with the over under at 61. I mean, I think they're giving a lot of credit to the defense here, being able to hold these Red Wolves under 20 points, if not less than that. Go ahead and give me your thoughts on this line and how you think this 11 a.m. kickoff is gonna go for the Sooners Week 1.
I think the line is generous for the Red Wolves. Actually, in my opinion here, I think that the Sooners are probably going to win this game like 56-3, 56-6. Like, this is not going to be a close game whatsoever. I have very high expectations for the Sooners going into Week 1, especially against Arkansas State. Like, listen, I know that Arkansas State has the ability to upset a team, especially opening week, but I think that this Sooners team has just gelled a lot better than we think it has. I think the defense is significantly better. I don't see Arkansas State scoring a touchdown.
Oh, okay. I mean, not even fourth quarter second stringers out there. Like, Arkansas State keeps the starters out. I mean, you think that could be, because I think they're going to probably score 14 points. I think Arkansas State's got a good team for the Sun Belt. I mean, I know it's not saying a lot, but I think that, like you said, in the past they've shocked some Power 5 schools. They've done things that have been unorthodox for teams that you pay big money to come in and whoop up on. I think they score a touchdown in this game. I think it would be kind of unrealistic to kind of assume they're not going to. Now, if they kick 5 field goals, I mean, I could see that happening also. I mean, if they don't give up a touchdown, but I think Arkansas State is at least going to score 14 points. I mean, if not, you're looking at like 12 points, 4 field goals, maybe 1 a quarter. I just think that you have a lot of things Week 1 that happens to a lot of good teams, which is where they're still trying to find their footing. It's really their first real test. They've gone against each other in practice for like 6 months. So seeing new faces and seeing things you're not used to, even if you go over film, I mean, there are things you see that you're not used to practicing for, which, I think Arkansas State's got some dogs on their team, but I don't think, as you said, it's going to be enough to prevent them getting blown out. You think the line is generous? I think it might be as well. I mean, I think that, a 35 to 42 point win here would be something that you could expect here, but I'm thinking you're looking at a line of like maybe, 49 to 10, 56-14, something like that. I think the Sooners are on pace to score probably 50 to 60 points, which I think if you're going to take the over-under on this, take the over 61.
I could agree with taking the over on the 61. But one thing I do think is that when I think about this year's Oklahoma team, I see what I think is basically a year two team. You know, you have a lot of people returning, a lot of people staying in their starting positions. You're losing a couple of key guys, like on the offensive line, obviously. But overall, the skill players and the key players on defense are mostly year two as a starting position in their position. So when I look at that, I don't think that Arkansas State, especially on when they're playing offense against the Sooners defense, is really going to be able to get more than a handful of first downs in the game. I just don't see them getting past, just multiple three and outs over and over and over again. Uh, but I could, like you brought up, I could see them definitely, getting a touchdown late in the fourth quarter. Sometime in the fourth quarter after OU has put their second string in. Um, but I don't think that with the starters in that Arkansas State scores a touchdown here. I just don't. I think the defense is that much better. I
Yeah.
think we're going to see. I think we are going to start seeing Brent Venables' Clemson style defense start to show up for the Sooners. And when I think of Brent Venables' Clemson style defense, I think that Clemson defense isn't giving up a touchdown to Arkansas State.
I mean, I get that. I can definitely see that angle for sure. Um, I mean, I would hope you're right, right? Like, I mean, like from
Mhm.
the standpoint of being somebody that's hoping for the Sooners to be successful with Brent Venables, I mean, and hoping for a good season, obviously way better than last year. Um, I mean, yeah, you're right. I don't think that Clemson defense that he had would give up a touchdown to Arkansas State because their defensive line was just so OP. I mean, you're just not giving the quarterback any time to get the ball out. And when you have a front seven as good as that Clemson team had, running the ball is out of the question, too. So they were just so stout defensively. And I think that you're looking at an OU team that has struggled with tackling in the past, has struggled with covering wide receivers, has got some speed in the past. The secondary is going to be kind of what you're going to focus on, right? Because if that quarterback
Mhm.
has more than 3 seconds to get that ball out, that's not good. You have to be able to get to this quarterback multiple times in this game, or it's just going to be a bad omen, I feel like. Because if this defensive line that has these transfer guys, that has these guys that have been put in good positions, and have been able to progress, skill wise in this last year and a half, if they're not being able to get to the quarterback against Arkansas State, how are you going to get to the quarterback at anybody in the Big 12? That's the big thing I'm focusing on. I expect 5 sacks. If there's not 5 sacks in this whole entire game, I think it's an L. I think you got to look at this as a loss because Arkansas State's offensive line, if they're able to, completely hang with the Sooners even for a half. I mean, this should be an obliteration. Like when we're sitting there in the stands watching this in person, which we will be there. We'll cover it. I've got a microphone. We'll interview some people. We'll get some thoughts on the season going in. So make sure you don't miss that. It'll be live on twitch.com/st0nergamer. So don't miss out on that. I'll make sure to get all that out on social media as well. We will be there. Thanks to Zach being the procurer of some great seats, by the way, for,
Yeah,
for the money. I mean, fantastic job by him.
$20
Yeah, I
tickets.
mean, woo, baby. So and there might be some adult beverages consumed. We might be a little
Yeah, at
litty
least
walking in those
six.
gates. Yeah, at least.
At
So
least six before
yeah,
kickoff.
yeah. So we'll be out there. But like I said, if this ends up being one of those Kent State games where they're hanging with us
Mhm.
through a half, I think that's disastrous because I think that was a
Yeah,
good measuring stick last year to be like, okay, that's not good. I know we lost a crap ton of guys and all these guys are new and there's no chemistry, but I mean, like, come on, man, like the talent level has got to be enough to pull away, and they did in the second half, and it wasn't close. But that first half, there were Sooner fans like, this isn't good. Like, I mean, like, and we can't
oh
have that
yeah.
feeling when September 2nd rolls around. When 12:30, 1 o'clock rolls around and it's halftime, we have got to be ahead by 28 or more. I think that's kind of where we're looking at right here because the offense is supposed to be electric. We've got skill position guys, like you said, that have progressed, and I think Javante Barnes is the real deal. I think that this Arkansas State defense is trash. When you
Yeah.
compare it to a Big 12 team like the Sooners, I mean, they're going to look like poo poo pee pee. I mean, in the Sun Belt, they're going to look fine. But I think against this competition, they're not going to look very good. And I think that I expect a lot of slipped tackles. I expect some blown coverages.
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead. Give me your
I
thoughts
mean,
as well.
there's a reason that they're getting paid like 1.3 million to come play Oklahoma. I mean, like, and here's the thing: we should be up by at least 4 or 5 touchdowns by the half. Um, I expect Jetson Arnold to be playing, about halfway through the third quarter. This should not be this should not be a worry. And if it is a worry, then I think we're in a horrible situation because if Arkansas State is hanging with us through an entire half of football, they're this year's not going to be looking too good. We're trying to improve from a 6-6 regular season and then a bold loss, 6-7 season. Like we can't I can't have another game one repeat last year. I mean, like everything that OU did early in the season just had me worried as an OU fan who had never witnessed them win below 8 games. I mean, this it's worrisome. It's worrisome, and I'm definitely a little stressed out for what I'm going to be watching come September 2nd. Because if we are not ahead by at least 4 touchdowns, I will be worried that we will probably go 6-6 again.
I mean, look, again, like I said, first half is always kind of a measuring stick, and I think that there shouldn't be any jitters. There should be some ultimate confidence from this team to be out there and kick some ass. I think that's the main thing. Is the mental has to be right, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, if they are in a state of mind where they're like, all right, here we go again. Like, let's say Dylan Gabriel throws a pick early. Right, like let's say it just happens, right? Miscommunication, maybe someone runs the wrong route, or maybe the ball is just underthrown, overthrown, and you get the groaners in the stands like, oh god, like, and maybe Arkansas State has it at the OU 35-yard line, and they score first.
we want
Yeah, I
Arnold.
mean, it would probably happen. It would probably happen, right? I mean, but the thing is if that happens, right? And I'm hoping it doesn't. But if there's a turnover in that first half that flips the field, and the defense is not able to hold at least to a field goal attempt here, I think
Yeah,
that that's normal. I would not freak out about that. I think that obviously most fans like yourself and other diehards are like, "Oh God, like that's bad." But if the end result is a 56-7 win and that's your only score you gave up, I
yeah.
think you leave the stadium going, "Okay, like shit happens." I mean that's I
But
mean
it's like you said, it's the mental, and I can't have Dylan Gabriel throwing a pick early and then being afraid to throw the ball after that, and then throwing 2 more picks and in the second quarter. Like if that happens, then we're in a
oh,
horrible
you got to pull him.
situation.
You got to pull
Obviously,
him. Yeah, you got
you
to
got to
pull him.
pull him
You got to
because
pull him.
Dylan. Listen, and this is kind of the season for Dylan Gabriel to either cement himself as being one of the most mid quarterbacks of all time or being a top 10 college quarterback of all time.
You're right.
I mean, because if he pulls off a college football playoff season here, then he's top 10 all time in yards. He's
Comeback player of the
arguably a
year.
top 10.
Yeah.
He's
Comeback player of
comeback
the
player of
year.
the year. He's
Yeah.
arguably a top 10 college quarterback of all time with that.
Second
I
round
mean,
draft
because
pick.
he second round draft pick. Yeah, like he's proven he played his 4 years. I mean, he's good. He is a good quarterback, but if he does not prove himself to be able to win at the Power 5 level like he was able to win at UCF, then we're in a horrible situation because then he starts slipping out of the draft talks. He's no longer an NFL quarterback. He can't play in the Power 5. He can only win 6 games. I mean, he's not getting drafted in that scenario.
Better start
This is
learning
his
French, buddy.
legacy is on
You'll
the
be in
line.
the
Yeah,
CFL, baby. Canadian League
exactly,
is calling.
exactly.
I mean,
Exactly, and he's already a little bit undersized. Like he's small. Like he's already got some things that are keeping him from being, an elite NFL draft option. But if he can will this team to 11 wins, I mean, that then he has cemented his legacy. So this is a real season for Dylan Gabriel in particular. So I'm hoping that he takes that into account and he is smarter with the football this year. He doesn't throw as many interceptions. He's not afraid to use his legs more. I know that last year the system didn't really allow him to use his legs that often because we had to make sure Davis Bevell didn't go in.
yeah,
But I mean, this year he can definitely use his legs more. He can because Dylan Gabriel can be out for 2 games and we'll be okay.
yeah.
I mean, I'm confident in
Should
Jackson
be.
Arnold. I'm
Yeah.
confident enough in Jackson Arnold that we'll be okay for 2 games. So as long as Dylan Gabriel just doesn't throw, shit. I mean, 15. I think if he throws 15, 16 interceptions this season, he's done.
Agreed. I think that's fair. I mean, I don't. And the thing is we've talked about this ad nauseum, but I mean, I
Yeah,
don't think he's going to be as last year having the weight of this offense on his shoulders. And I think that's going to be a big benefit. I think these skill position
yeah,
guys, mainly in the backfield, I think these running backs and this offensive line are going to have to take that. They're not going to have to. They're going to take that pressure off of him. He's not going to be throwing 40 times a game. They're not going to expect him to carry this offense. And I think for him, it's a big load off of your mental stress, right? I mean, you're able to go out there and hand it off to Javante Barnes, hand it off to Marcus Major, hand it off to Gavin Sawchuk, hand it off to even Hicks. I mean, Hicks is getting some press lately. So I mean, I think all four of those guys are going to get carries in that first game. They should. They should. I mean,
yeah,
even Gavin Freeman in the backfield, go ahead, give him some carries.
yeah. He's
I
a
mean,
Debo guy.
yeah. I
I
mean,
mean,
he's. I mean, you're gonna see some formations you'll never see the rest of the season as well. You might see some trick plays you never see the rest of the season, just to kind of get these guys relaxed, get these guys gelled. Like go ahead, do a flea flicker. You know, if it's picked off, I mean, so be it. But I mean, like at least you're out here showing you're having fun. Calling some plays where you're like, hey, I mean, we'll get it back. Don't worry about it. Have confidence in the defense to get it back. This is a game where you're trying to tune up and stuff. Sure, play for real the first half or so, and if you're up by, like you said, a large margin, maybe throw Jackson Arnold in there and get him some reps. I mean, I expect to see him on the field just like you do. I expect to see him for at least a
yeah,
whole quarter. If he's not in there in the fourth quarter, that game is too close for comfort, and I'm concerned.
yeah.
That's
Agreed.
if we don't see him until. I mean, and Bob Stoops. This is not his team anymore, but you remember he hated putting in the backups. He would put in the backups maybe the
Yeah,
last drive of the game, and I hated that because I'm like, come on, man, like you're up by 50, like give these guys some reps. And now it's like you have to give these kids reps because they'll fucking transfer. I mean, you have to give these guys reps, and I think that newer coaches these days are a lot more lenient with making those substitutions, especially when they're up big.
yeah,
And I appreciate that as a fan because I think that we deserve to see some of these young guys, and I like the redshirt rule of being able to play them for 4 games, and still have that red shirt on them. I think that's also a great change for the game, and I think that it's meant for moments like that, and I think that also makes coaches a lot more willing to do that. So I mean, look, I'm excited. I think the game is going to be a slugfest. I mean, a one-sided slugfest. It should be a beatdown, but I expect to be able to come away with that game knowing a lot more about the new guys.
yeah,
I think that should be the takeaway from this week 1 game. It shouldn't be a struggle. If it is a struggle through one quarter, so be it. But I mean, that's just guys getting their footing. I mean, I think that a lot of people put a lot of expectations on teams like OU and stuff where, like, really, I mean, being ranked 19th, 20th in the country is that different than being ranked 6 or 7 like last year. I think having a little bit less expectations as far as national media goes helps you mentally as well. It's like, oh great, like we're not supposed to be a playoff team, but we're going to be one because they don't think we can fucking do it. Opposed to now we got to keep up appearances, we got to keep winning games, or else we're fucked. I mean, I think that is also a big thing about this year being a huge bounce back season for the Sooners.
yeah. I'm expecting a huge bounce back. I mean, when you think about it, look at Vegas. I mean, look at the title odds. OU's still in the top 10 after having a 6-7 season, just because they're OU, and just because mentally, as being at that program, being at that school, it kind of just lends itself that you have to live up to that pressure, or you're out. So, I mean, hopefully, OU can finish with at least 11 wins, and they're in that playoff conversation. I would love to see us beat Texas. If we beat Texas, and I expect Texas to win at least 10 games, then I think we're in a really good situation. And man, I would love to be at that Texas game if we could, but I don't think that'll happen.
Yeah, I saw those ticket prices. My wallet was like,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, no
when
chance.
my dad had season tickets, like I went once. And the reason
I've never been to the rivalry.
and the reason I went once was he was like, look, man, like I usually don't like to go to this game because it's really hostile. These most people are assholes the whole entire day, and the drive down there is miserable, and you have to find a place to stay. And luckily, his cousin like lived down there for that year, and so we went down there, and it was fun. We were seated behind the goalpost on one side of the field, so it was kind of a weird angle to be at, but getting to go and having season tickets and not having to pay like the normal price for that ticket was probably a huge benefit for him. He usually sells them, so I don't know if he's I don't
Yeah,
even think he has season tickets anymore. There were my grandma's season tickets that she had for like 55 years. I honored her at halftime like a decade ago. She's not with us anymore. She lived to be 100. But I mean,
Yeah.
I've been the tailgate scene is great. I think if we were
Yeah.
just to go
Lindsay
down there
Street,
and
here we
just
come.
yeah, I mean not even Lindsay Street, down at the state fair. I mean, if you go to the state fair down there,
Oh,
I
okay.
mean that is almost just as fun. I mean, go down there, hang out before the game, and then find a good bar to be at. I feel like you would still get
Yeah.
kind of a good you'd have a good time. So
Yeah,
um
I'm actually from the Dallas area,
yeah.
close around to it. So I've been to the state fair multiple times actually, but I've never gotten to be in the Cotton Bowl when it's going on. So, uh, but that state fair is no joke, man. I mean, and you're right, crazy tailgating scene outside of it, great bars around it.
Yeah, top
Um,
notch.
but shout out, I want to say RIP to Big Tex,
Ooh, yeah.
my guy burned down a couple years ago. Um, I've seen Big Tex in person, been up to Big Tex.
Right.
RIP, man.
Yeah, RIP. But yeah, I think that's just kind of our expectations for week one. I think we'll see some of that happen, and hopefully the good manifestation happens.
And make sure that everyone catches us on Lindsay Street
Yeah, yeah, come
because
by,
we're gonna be there.
say hi, say hi. We'll be there. So we'll be there, be square. And let's and speaking of things that are manifesting, might as well get into the Sooners' future conference win totals here as we hit the
Yeah.
SEC, folks. SEC win totals coming at you, and it goes alphabetical. So we get to start off with Alabama,
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
and so right now, Vegas is favoring under 10.5 wins for the Crimson Tide, um, and so I mean um, they have their only losses being Texas and LSU. So I mean, now that Texas game, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if Texas is gonna be able to pull that one out. I think
But you
Jalen.
didn't hear?
What?
Texas is back.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot every year. I forgot every year they're back. But foolish of me. I think Jalen Milroe is a lot better than people think he is. I think
Hmm.
Quinn Ewers, who's most likely going to start. There's still some weird quarterback controversy being peddled by some of the beat writers down in Austin, which I think is just not right. I think that they're pretty set on Ewers being the starter. At least I think Steve Sarkisian's pretty set. I mean, Arch Manning might look good, but I don't think that Steve's going to trot him out there as the starter here. I
But it's
think,
that Malachi dude that they're talking about more, not even Arch Manning anymore.
yeah, I
They're
mean,
saying Arch
which
Manning's quarterback 3.
yeah, yeah. Have you seen Malachi's arms are like the size of my head? He's just fucking
Dude's
he
yoked.
looks yoked as hell. Um,
Yeah.
but they've been talking about them. Here are the wins they have for Alabama, Middle Tennessee, South Florida, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Chattanooga, and Auburn. So they're looking at 9 wins this year. 9-2 is what CBS has them at, with losses at LSU and Texas. I say pick the over here. I think
Over. Yeah.
I think Alabama is back into the playoff conversation easily. I think that this team is for real, and you can't keep a man like Nick Saban down long, especially when right in front of your face you tell him that Georgia has overtaken their spot as the kings of the SEC. You don't say that in front of Nick Saban because he's going to come back and bop you. And I think that, considering that the only time they'll have to play Georgia would be in the SEC championship game this year, I think that, rightfully so, I think they should probably get the job done. I think that this is going to be probably your sole representative from the SEC. I don't think you'll see 2 SEC teams like we have in the past. I think we're going to see one. I think we'll see one from there, one from the Pac-12, one from the Big Ten, and one from the Big 12. I think you're going to actually have 4 different teams from 4 different conferences. And if it's not the Pac-12, maybe it's the ACC and Florida State. I mean, this is one of those seasons where I don't think we're going to have multiple teams from the same conference being in the discussion for the playoff this year. And I think that's going to be due to the fact that Alabama is going to get the job done. I think they're going to go undefeated. I think they are not going to lose a game this season. I am very much on the Roll Tide bandwagon unapologetically because, to be honest, Zach, and this is going to probably irritate you, but I've enjoyed the Alabama dynasty because of how much it annoys other fan bases. And that's coming from an Oregon Ducks fan that's had a chance at winning a national title thanks to, the play of Auburn and Ohio State in the past. Of course, we've never been able to finish the job. But I mean, as someone who's not an Alabama fan, the fact I enjoy it is just because it's so annoying, right? Like, oh my God, they're good again. Like can we just get over this Alabama hump? And to be honest, I don't want it to go until Nick Saban's gone. Once he retires, sure, they'll fall off
Yeah.
like a rock. But I think, you know, I enjoy them being. I mean, I enjoy their fan base more than I enjoy Georgia's fan base. I think Georgia's fan base is disgusting. They're a bunch of hogs. I can't stand them on social media. I just they just are so annoying. And Alabama fans, they've never really irked me that much. Like, it's like, yeah, you're good,
They're
but
just great.
what are you gonna do about it? Like, I mean, it wasn't like, there's not this pompous attitude. It's just like, we're Alabama. We've been good for like a decade and a half. Like, we're going to continue to be good as long as Nick Saban is here. You're going to just have to deal with it, and I can deal with that. Like, I mean, like, I get it. I mean, OU's beat them. I mean, you can't really say that didn't impress you. It impressed me.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, anybody that beats this team is going to impress me. Now, could LSU get the job done? Could Texas get the job done? Could Tennessee or Texas A&M get the job done and beat Alabama? It could happen, but it's going to take some help. It's going to take injuries. It's going to have to take some massive turnover differential in some of these games. And I think a lot of stock is being put into LSU that's probably unwarranted. And I think, I mean, and you know how we feel about Texas. Like, I think they're overrated every year they take the field the last decade
Yeah.
and a half. But I think that Steve Sarkisian has that team trending in the right direction. We're looking at more of a stable team when it comes to Texas, as far as like the expected win total being like 9 or 10 this year. I think is not far fetched for the Longhorns, like it has been in the past, where they've gone like 5-7 under Charlie Strong, and Tom Herman had his bad years as well. I think that they're finally getting on the right track, as much as it pains me to say that. But I don't think that week one is going to go well for the Longhorns. I think Alabama is going to put their foot down, and I think they're going to show the world why they are going to be at the top of their game for the rest of the season. And we'll see how that LSU and Tennessee game goes, because I think people are kind of sleeping on Tennessee. A lot of Milton
Yeah.
talk, but I think they're sleeping on them. What are your thoughts on Alabama coming into this season?
So starting with the Texas game, I think they beat Texas like 55-10.
Oh,
I think they're just going to cream Texas. Um, LSU is the game that I'd be worried about if I was an Alabama fan, just because LSU is on the, they're overrated, I think, this year, but I'm also kind of buying into it just a little bit. Um, just because Brian Kelly's obviously a good coach, so we'll see where it goes. Like, he's obviously, like, he's got the ability to beat Alabama. I don't Notre Dame's done it before, I think. So when he was there, so I believe, uh, I think he's beaten Alabama before. Maybe I'm wrong.
who?
Um,
Wait, who?
Brian Kelly.
Maybe. I mean,
Yeah,
they.
couldn't remember.
I mean, last year, yeah. They had that
Oh
two
yeah,
point conversion that they won on, and that was that was
oh
that was
yeah,
that was the big win last year. So yeah, he has. But
yeah. So I think LSU is probably the biggest worry for Alabama right now. Now I'm also with you that if Alabama were to win only 10 games, their loss would be to a UT, but it would not be to Texas. It
no,
would be
yeah,
to Tennessee.
yeah.
Because one, man, I love that head coach over there in Tennessee. And they still have a lot of weapons, and I believe in Joe Milton. I'm buying into the Milton hype. So I think Tennessee is going to be a really good team. I think they're a sleeper playoff team. Um, I think they have the ability to go undefeated this year. So
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for Tennessee is they'll be on the road this time in Tuscaloosa instead of being at home, and I think that's
yeah, which
and
is
I
going to be tough
yeah,
for them.
and I think that's going to be the biggest thing for them, is trying to quiet that crowd. If they can get up
They
early,
need that checkerboard.
yeah, if they can get up early in that game, though, I think that'll really help them out. But I agree. I think that
Yeah,
this is you pick the over here. I mean, if you want to make some money,
yeah,
pick the over. I think 11 wins is if you wanted to go exact win total, you would go with that. Um,
yeah.
uh,
Expect them to lose at least one regular season game because Nick Saban just always seems to catch a tough break with something like the 2 point conversion with LSU, right? Like, always something. And maybe it is Texas this year, but I just don't see that happening. And I think that anyone telling you, especially Vegas, telling you that Texas is supposed to be favored here, they're just trying to eat at your pocketbooks.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the line right now. I'm looking at it right here. So for the Texas Alabama line, I mean, this is kind of, I mean, not shocking like you said. I mean, this is kind of, what you kind of expect. It's Alabama -7, right? I mean, Alabama -7 at this point. Texas plays Rice to start the season. They should whoop up on Rice.
Yeah,
It shouldn't be close, and that should keep this line probably around 7. Um, I don't know if Alabama opens with anybody before the Texas game. I think that might be their first game of the year. I'm looking here.
Nick Saban didn't care. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't think they play until that game. I don't see any lines for Alabama until
That's
that game.
hilarious.
So
Opening game,
yeah, I mean,
Texas.
yeah, just I mean, they just no F's given. Oh no, they open with Middle Tennessee. Okay, they open with Middle Tennessee,
Oh,
so they'll
yeah.
get a
So they'll
tune.
beat them 70-0.
Yeah, favored by minus 39.5. I think the Blue Raiders are about to get stomped. But look, I mean, I think like you said, this is a year where I would take the over. If you want to go exact wins, I'd probably slam the 11 at plus 275 right now. Make yourself a little extra money here. Because that's a good little money doubler. If you throw a 20 and get a 50 back, I mean, I think that's something I would be willing to throw out there. And that leads us to one of the other dark horse teams a lot of people are talking about in the SEC, Arkansas, right? The Razorbacks last year, a
Yeah.
lot of people were hyping them up, but they kind of fell off pretty quickly. The over under for them is 7 wins. And CBS says take the over 7 here. And here are the 8 wins they have them winning: Western Carolina, Kent State, BYU, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, Auburn, FIU, and Missouri, with losses on the road against LSU, on the road against Ole Miss, on the road against Alabama, and on the road against Florida. So they don't think that Arkansas is going to play very well away from Fayetteville. Um, the most shocking team listed there is probably Ole Miss. I don't know why they would. I mean, I think those teams are pretty evenly matched, so maybe that's why I think they're just giving them the nod because they're the home team. Ole Miss is. But I mean, look, 8-4, not a bad year for the Razorbacks. Your thoughts on KJ Jefferson and company?
Um, I think they go 10-2.
Whoa.
I think they beat Florida, and I think they beat Ole Miss. Um, KJ Jefferson and the Rocket there in Arkansas, I'm buying into that hype all the way. I think that they are a dark horse playoff team. I think they have a chance to beat Alabama, honestly. So that like Arkansas is one of those teams that you got to watch those first 2 weeks and see like where they're really measuring up against some of this mid-level competition. But after those 2 weeks, if they're winning like I think they're gonna win, I mean that I think that's a 10-win team.
I mean, look, Kent State and Western Carolina aren't exactly big opponents. The two games I'm looking
Yeah,
at,
but they should win by like
yeah, the
70 is
two
what I
games
mean.
I'm looking at is the BYU game and
Yeah.
the Texas A&M game that's on a neutral site. The Texas A&M game is on a neutral site. BYU, you have them traveling to Fayetteville. Um, I think those are kind of the two measuring stick games, right? Because I think if they beat those teams by 25 plus, I think then, like you said, you're looking at a team that's probably going to give Alabama a rough time, even though they're going to have to travel on the road, and they have not played well against Nick Saban on the road. They just haven't. And a big part of that has been turnovers. And if KJ Jefferson can stay healthy and not turn the ball over, they'll have a chance. I do believe that they can beat Florida. I believe they can beat Ole Miss. But I think 10-2 with losses at LSU and Alabama on the road is 100% possible. So I kind of agree. Take the over here at plus 120. I don't think they have exact win totals listed on DraftKings for Arkansas. So that I'm looking here. Let's see.
Say
Yeah,
10 wins, what would that get you?
yeah, nothing. Yeah, they don't have them listed. So I mean, it's they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. They got about 20 teams listed on DraftKings for exact win total bets, and they are not one of the 20 teams. So I mean, not
Yeah.
polarizing enough to put on there, but take the over on the wins. Take over 7 plus 120. I think it's a really safe bet because, like I said, I think Ole Miss is probably a W, and I think Florida's probably a W as well.
Yeah. I don't believe in the hype of Florida this season whatsoever. Ole Miss is probably going to be decent because Lane Kiffin's good, obviously, but um, I think Florida's probably going to be trash. So we'll see. We'll see. I think that Ole Miss game is going to be a really big one for
Yeah, I
Arkansas.
yeah, I agree. Next on the list is Auburn. Over under 7 wins for the Tigers. And CBS says you stay the fuck away from this one and don't bet on it at all. They have it as a push. They have them exactly at 7 wins, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, 7 wins. You have UMass on here, Cal on here, Samford, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt on the road, and New Mexico State as your wins. Now, this is what shocks me, Zach, right? So you have Arkansas losing to Ole Miss on the road, but you have Auburn beating Ole Miss at home. I think again, this is one of those situations where it's like when we get down to this list, where they have Ole Miss at, because that's really kind of
Yeah,
what I mean. I mean, I think that they've got a decent team this year, and so if you're thinking Auburn's going to only beat three conference teams, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Vanderbilt, I mean, is Ole Miss supposed to be a part of that? I would pick the under here, and say this is probably a 6-win football team. They have them have losses on the road against Texas A&M, at home against Georgia, on the road against LSU, on the road against Arkansas, and then at home versus Alabama, which I think are all losses for Auburn. They just don't have a lot of talent, and Hugh Freeze has his work cut out for him.
yeah. This I would stay away from this Auburn team. I mean, they're one of those teams that's like on one side they're like dark horse 10 wins, and on the other side they're also like dark horse 3 wins. So, I mean, we'll see where they go. Obviously I think that they can probably win 7 games. If I was smash a total right now, I'd probably go 6.
Yeah, I would once again stay away from this one. Um, Again, I don't think they have Auburn listed on here for exact win totals, probably rightfully so. Yeah, they're not on here, rightfully so. And yeah, I would just stay away. I mean, I think that they're an enigma. I think this is a team that I mean, this last sentence in this article kind of says it a lot. It says they have are capable of springing some upsets, but also capable of slipping up against teams they should beat. And I think that that's exactly kind of the talent level that Hugh Freeze is looking at. There's not going to be any consistency with this team. They're probably going to make a bowl game, but it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not going to make a good bowl game.
Ho ho ho! All right, this is you're gonna love this. You're gonna love this. So next on the list is Florida, and they have the win total at 5.5 wins for the Gators. I mean, this is I mean, and so
Fuck them
again,
Gators.
yeah. So again, this kind of leads credence to I don't think Arkansas is losing to this Florida team. Even if it's on the road, they should take care of business. So I think taking the over 7 on Arkansas is probably a solid pick here. Um, they have their 5 wins being against McNeese State, Charlotte, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, and Missouri. I think you can take Arkansas off that list and put that as an L. They've also
How
got
about Kentucky?
They've also got losses at Utah, Tennessee, South Carolina, Georgia, LSU, and Florida State. Um, Graham Mertz has been named the starter. When this article came out, they didn't know who was going to be the starter, but Graham Mertz is your starter. Um, Now, they have Florida State listed here on exact win totals, but it's not Florida, and they have Florida here as well. So they've got them both on there. I think Florida's polarizing enough here. If you want to go exact win totals and go with 5, it's literally the least best odds if you want to go 5. I think that if you pick the over 5.5, I think you're wild, but
Yeah.
but CBS says pick the over. They said put him at 6. I just have like, where is that 6th one going to come? I think you could probably get it against Utah. I think that week 1 matchup again against Cam Rising and company, they did it last year. I feel like they could do it again. Just because I think that unlike last season, Utah will be probably more confident, and I think that if you can shatter that confidence early, you can get to those Utes, and that's kind of how Anthony Richardson and company did it last year. Took some extra stuff though, but I mean, I don't know if I like. I don't know if I like the 6-win total here. I think you're looking at a 5-win football team here. I think, like you said, take Kentucky and Arkansas away and have those L's. You're looking at a 4-win season for them.
Yeah, I'm about to
If
say I'm smashing a 4 exact win if
Yeah,
I can on
at
Florida right
plus
now.
450. I mean, that's probably a good bang for your buck here. Um,
CBS is just riding, it's just blazing Tim Tebow. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're just they've had Tim Tebow since 2008 or 2006 basically, and they've just been blazing him ever since. And this is the consequence of that. You have Florida saying that you should pick the over on 5.5, and this is just because Tim Tebow did a couple things against the Sooners. Like,
I mean, it could be true. But yeah, I think this is a 4-win football team. I think Florida State's gonna have a disastrous year Billy Napier is going to be on the hot seat in year number 2. Fans are going to want him out
Learn
of.
to learn French, buddy.
Yeah, time to get to the Canadian Football League, buddy, because you are out of here. The European Football League is calling too. They're ready for you to get out to
Oh yeah.
Nuremberg. Um, I mean, yeah, I think if you smash the 4 here and exact win totals, you're not going to be disappointed. At plus 450, I think that's not a bad bet to take. Get yourself $110 on a $20 bill. Throw it on there. I mean, if you even throw a tenner on here, I mean, you're still walking away with $55. I mean, this is something I would consider putting money on because I just don't
For
see
real.
where Florida's going to get these wins. Graham Mertz is not the answer. Jack Miller III is not the answer either. I expect this to be a disastrous year for the Gators. They're not making a bowl game this year, buddy.
Nope. No bowl game for the Gators. They suck. Is what they get. They ruined Sam Bradford's season.
It's true. Um, and that leads us to the defending national champions, Zach, the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, Vegas says under 11 and a half. Under 11 and a half for Georgia. Of course, CBS is glazing up the SEC. They said take the over 11 and a half. They think they're going to go undefeated and not lose a single game this season. They have no losses for the Bulldogs listed. Um, I have to tell you, when you look at these wins, it's hard for me to pick out a loss out of here. You start out with UT
There.
Martin. You start out with UT Martin, dub. Ball State, dub. South Carolina, probably a dub.
Um,
UAB, dub. Auburn, dub. Kentucky, dub.
uh,
Vanderbilt, dub. Florida, dub. Missouri, dub. Ole Miss, dub. On the road against Tennessee, eh,
that's your
eh,
only one. That's
eh.
the only one.
And then you end the year at Georgia Tech, who's supposed to be poo poo pee pee. So
Yeah, another dub.
you still have to pick the over. They'd be 12-1, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. No, they'd be 11-1. So you'd pick the under. So yeah, I think, which Vegas is favoring. So you're not going to make any money. But I think that they're right. I think this is a one-loss football team. Their schedule is super easy. This is a cruise control season for the Bulldogs. There's no shot that they're going to lose to any of these teams except for possibly Tennessee on the road. Neyland Stadium's going to be packed to the brim. Those tickets are going to be $500 a piece, and that Joe Milton
Yeah.
is going to be slinging that rock because you're talking about the end of the season, brother. People are gelling. You have chemistry set up, and if Joe Milton's the real deal, I don't know if Carson Beck is going to be any good. They named him as the starter. I don't know if he's going to be any good. This is a Georgia team that has more questions than most of these SEC teams do at the quarterback position. Did he look good? Yeah, Carson Beck looked good, but fuck, Stetson Bennett looked great. And have you seen him in the preseason? Looks like poo poo pee pee la boo boo. And yes, there's a step up between D1 football and the NFL for sure, but it's like, I didn't think Stetson Bennett would look like ass, but he's looked like ass. And I think that, if they can make Stetson Bennett look like a Heisman Trophy winner, down there at Georgia, which he didn't win it, but he was there in New York. Can they do that with Carson Beck? I don't think so. I think Stetson Bennett, because he was 95 years old, had the experience to, be able to control that offense a lot better. This is a young guy in Carson Beck that got in a couple games last year, threw some good passes, but again, I think that the other position players around him kind of helped him out more than himself. I think this is going to be one of those Dylan Gabriel situations, Zach, where you're putting a lot of weight of the offense on this young guy's shoulders, and I don't know if he's going to be able to do it. But the schedule helps.
So yeah, the schedule helps. It's a cakewalk, and because it's a cakewalk up until they go, up to Tennessee, that might lend itself to a loss there and going to Tennessee because that's a tough environment and you've had a cakewalk all season. So I could definitely see 11-1. But as someone who's financially responsible, I'm not going to put my money against Kirby Smart anymore. I've decided that as long as Kirby Smart is there, I'm going to assume they're going to win 12 games for now. So I would pick the over if I'm being completely honest. I love Tennessee for a lot of reasons. I think they're similar to OU in a lot of ways just because of what Josh Heupel's been able to take over there. But like, it's Georgia. at the end of the day, it's Georgia. So I mean, I'm sticking with the over on 12-0 for the Bulldogs this year. I think that they're getting to the playoffs, and I think that Alabama is going to be there with them. Honestly, at this point.
I
So
mean, yeah, and let's and I and but like and here's the thing. I mean, obviously, I'm picking 11-2 here. I think you have that Tennessee probably an L, and I think Alabama gets you in the SEC championship game 11-2, and that puts you out of the conversation. Because I think that you're going to have a team like either USC or Oregon, probably representing the Pac-12 with a better record. I think that you could possibly have Florida State or UNC or Clemson come out of the ACC and have a better record, and I think that that could lend itself to having them skipped if Alabama does what I think they're going to do and run the table. Um, I mean, again, you're looking at a two-horse race right now for the SEC between Alabama and Georgia. LSU could sneak up and bite you, but I just don't think that they've gotten enough consistency, to do that. I think they could pull up an upset against one of these guys, but they don't have to play Georgia this year. They just have to play Alabama, and I don't see them beating Alabama. I just don't see it happening.
yeah,
You got lucky last year, and I don't think you're going to get as lucky this year. So I mean, I think that that's kind of a big thing. But I mean, again, there's a reason why the exact win total isn't listed for the Bulldogs because there's really not much to debate other than whether they're going to have one loss in the regular season or no losses. So I mean, there's no really point in betting on this. I think you just have to watch it and see how Carson Beck does. And like you said, the easy schedule kind of lends to him gaining confidence because where is going to be his wall of competition defensively? I don't see any of these defenses being able
mhm.
to stop Georgia because they're going to be able to hand it off 95% of the time and get 9 yards a carry.
Yeah, exactly. But I think a good measuring stick game is going to be that South Carolina game, who's an up and
Yeah.
coming team in the SEC. They're well coached. They have a good offense. Spencer Rattler is going to be poised. He's gonna be able to test the Georgia defense. And if they just completely just whoop South Carolina, then I think you're looking at an undefeated team for sure.
Gonna have a chance. I think, like you said, I mean, having South Carolina in between the hedges down in Athens helps you as well. Um,
Yeah,
I think going on the road against Tennessee, like we said, is probably going to be the test. I think that's gonna be the game of the year. It'll probably be the game of the week. We'll see College Game Day there. I don't think that's going to be a dispute. So
yeah.
I would say if you want to lose some money, bet the under 11 and a half. Um, but I think picking the over is not stupid either. It's just hard to go undefeated in college football. There's so much uncertainty, and injuries can happen by that end of the year as well. So I mean, you have to think about that as well. Having that game late in the season, if you have injuries on defense for the Georgia Bulldogs, that's probably going to be the big thing because I think the offense is going to be fine no matter who's at quarterback. I just think that because, like I said, I don't think they're going to rely on their quarterback to throw the ball a lot this year. And I think that that's going to be another big thing because, again, you're playing bad defenses for most of the season. You're not going to need him to throw 25 times a game. You're going to be able to hand it off for 7 yards a carry. I mean, this offensive line is great. This is one of those OU caliber offensive lines that's going to be able to push these defensive lines around. And
Yeah.
I think that's my takeaway is if you want to bet the under, you're going to lose some money, but I don't think they're going to go undefeated. I think they're going to catch an L somewhere. Um,
Mm.
Next on the list is Kentucky, over under 6.5. Um, Vegas is favoring the over 6.5. I think this is a 7-win football team. If you want to make money, you would have to bet on 6 games. And I like Kentucky. I like Mark Stoops and what he's been able to do. They have Devin Leary coming in and being their quarterback, the NC State transfer, who I really liked.
Yeah.
I think he's got better skill position players around him to make him look better, and a better offensive line as well. So he's not going to get sacked as much. I think he should be healthy, which was the problem last year. And I think that you're looking at a team that will probably. I think Vegas is right. Pick the over. I think this is a 7 or 8 win football team. Here are the wins they have here on CBS: Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, Akron, Vanderbilt, Missouri. Now they have a win against Tennessee, which I'm not really liking that pick there, and a win at Louisville. I think you could swap. They have them losing to Mississippi State. If you swap Mississippi State and
That's a
Tennessee,
win. Yeah.
if you swap Mississippi State and Tennessee, I think you've got a better team, and they could even win against South Carolina. They've got that as a loss as well. They got losses at Florida, which I think could be a win considering how bad Florida's supposed to be. They had Florida's win total at 5.5. This team's at 6.5. What makes you think that Kentucky can't beat Florida at home? Kentucky will be home for that game. So I think you're looking at an 8-win team with losses at Georgia and Alabama, and maybe
Yeah.
Tennessee. So I mean, what is that? Is that 9-3? 9-3? I mean,
I think I agree with that. I
yeah,
mean, I don't think they're going to beat Tennessee,
yeah,
and obviously they're going to lose to Georgia. So
and Alabama. So I think those are your
yeah,
three
Alabama.
losses, and I think you could definitely beat Florida and definitely beat South Carolina, and Mississippi. Or sorry, I think and Mississippi State. I think all three of those
Yeah,
games they have as losses could be wins for the Wildcats. They've got a good enough team. Um, the problem though is the offensive line in the running game. Kentucky doesn't have a running game right now, and the offensive line is lost a lot of guys last year. So it's a better offensive line than he had at NC State. But you're gonna again be leaning on Devin Leary to be that guy, and we didn't get a chance to see that last year because of injury. Can he come back and be another dark horse kind of fourth or fifth guy in the Heisman race if Kentucky does really well? Yeah, not going to win it, but I think he could be fighting for that last spot to sneak into New York if things kind of go that way. There's just a lot of good quarterback talent this year, and I think that he could be looking on the outside looking in when it comes to that. But he has the talent to will this team to at least 8 or 9 wins, and I think that picking the over here, you're not going to win any money. Um, but I think it's the right thing to do. They don't have Kentucky listed on here as one of the 20 teams on here as well, so there's no exact win total bet on DraftKings at least. But if I had to pick one, I would say 8 games probably. They might slip up against Florida or South Carolina, but I think they got Mississippi State in the bag. Um, and I think that that loss at Tennessee. I mean, I don't know how you have Tennessee losing on the road to Kentucky. I have mad respect for Kentucky, but I just don't see them beating the Vols even if they're at home.
yeah. I mad respect for Kentucky. Mad respect for Mark Stoops. He's got it in his blood, but it's just I just don't think they're beating Tennessee.
You think this is 8 or 9 win team? What would
I
you
think
peg it at?
I'm thinking 9 right now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and I
So
and I wouldn't fault you at all. I think having Mississippi State as a loss on the road is a joke. I think having at South Carolina is probably a decent. I wouldn't. That's going to be a great game. I think that at South Carolina game is going to be a great game. I think it's going to be one that you're going to want to watch. It's going to be close. Um,
yeah, for sure.
the Florida game should be a win considering the win total Florida's got, which they could be a 4-win football team. You've got to beat them. I know and it's at home. You have to do that. You have to beat the Gators at home. So yeah, I think this is an 8-9 win football team. I mean, look for them to get a really good bowl game. I think Mark Stoops is doing a great job. It's just going to be whether or not that offensive line can protect Devin Leary enough to make him able to find those receivers they've got. And if they decide to gel and show up, then this is a completely different football team.
Yeah, I agree.
Next on the list is LSU. Um, they have their win total at 9.5, and Vegas is favoring 10 wins this year. But CVS says mark it at 11. Dude, they're going to lose one game, and it's going to be Florida State. They have them winning home at Grambling, on the road at Mississippi State. They got them beating Arkansas at home, on the road at Ole Miss, on the road at Missouri, Auburn, Army. They have them beating Alabama on the road. They got Florida at home, Georgia State at home, and they finished the season at Texas A&M at home. And they have their only loss being Florida State. I think pick the under here. I,
Yeah,
I love Jaden Daniels. I love Malik Neighbors, their star wide receiver. I think they're going to be a combo that people are not going to want to deal with. They got a great linebacker and Harold Perkins Jr. And the secondary has really bolstered up. That was the big thing last year. They got some great guys in the transfer portal. The secondary is looking to be better down there in the Bayou, but it's not going to be good enough to beat Alabama. Not going to be good enough to probably beat Arkansas. Okay, I take that back. They could probably beat Arkansas. That's going to be a slugfest though. And I mean, I think this is probably a 2-loss football team. I'd say 9 wins. I'd say slam 9 wins on LSU. They are listed on here. 9 wins is your worst odds, but it's still plus 275. 11 wins is at plus 450, and that would be one, two. Three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Now, that's what they've got him at. CBS has him as 11 wins. If you want to double your money, you buy all in on the Tigers. I just don't see it happening. You have to beat Alabama,
Yeah.
and you have to beat Arkansas, and I mean, I don't know. I just don't know. I think and Jaden Daniels is gonna, if he gets hurt, you're fucked. And you know he's a dual threat guy, so I mean it could happen.
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
And they play Florida State week 1, by the way. That game is week
that's
1.
it's so tough to judge. It's so tough to judge them this year. But I just hearing this win, I just don't see how they're going to lose to Florida State and beat Alabama on the road. That doesn't make any sense to me. This
Swap
is a
them.
9-win team. This is a 9-win team. I think I could see them being a 10-win team. They lose to Florida State and they lose to Alabama. But geez, I mean, the hype is crazy. I mean, I get it,
Yeah.
but like the hype is crazy. We're looking at Texas Tech levels of hype right now.
Yeah, this is, to have them be possibly the third best team here in the SEC.
Yeah,
Um, it's not wild to me to think, but I feel like that spot should be Tennessee's spot. I believe a lot more in Tennessee than
Arkansas.
I mean, Arkansas is so sketchy to me though. I mean, the defense is so sussy. Um, I think like we said earlier, having them at over 7 wins is probably the right thing to do for Arkansas. But can they get past some of those humps? I don't know. It's going to be up to that defense. I think KJ Jefferson's got to play better ball. I think he's going to have better guys to throw it to, and the skill position players will be fine. I think they got a bunch of people in the transfer portal as well. But I think that defense is the big thing for Arkansas. And Jaden Daniels is a terror for defensive
Yeah,
coordinators. So I mean that's not going to be advantage them. And having them at home is going to be a huge advantage for LSU. So I could see them beating Arkansas at home. I didn't have a problem with having that loss on there. The loss that I had a problem with for Arkansas was on the road at Florida. I think they should take care of them on the road in Gainesville. So I think that was the only thing we had really to dispute about Arkansas's wins that they have listed here on CBS. But yeah, the under 9.5 is probably the way I would go. I think like you said, this is probably a 9-win football team with losses probably at Alabama, Florida State, if not Alabama, Florida State, Alabama, Arkansas. I mean, I mean, or and they could be 8-3.
Alabama and someone.
Yeah, it's going to be Alabama and somebody. I mean, the fact that they've got them beating Alabama on the road in Tuscaloosa, like, are we really going to shit on Alabama this much? I just don't believe that they're that bad.
That's the Joe Burrow. That's the glazing of Joe Burrow. It's coming back.
Glazing it.
That's really what's happening. I mean, LSU is just they're retaining their hype that they had because they won a national championship a couple of years ago.
Well, and they beat
Like
Alabama
they're
last
retaining a
year
little
at
bit of hype.
home,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
why yeah.
But this is not the team that we think it is. They're
No.
not that talented. I'm seeing experts
Ooh.
put LSU at number 2, like to finish the season at the end, like losing in the national championship to Georgia. Like I've seen them putting LSU number 3 and number 4. Haven't seen the number 1 yet because that's usually just Georgia. But I mean, geez, I've seen a lot of. And speaking of that, I've seen a lot of Michigan number 1s too, which I'm not opposed to, by the way. But
Yeah, I think LSU is a great football team. They're not the team. So I think you're
yeah,
looking at 2 losses this year for them at least. 2 losses at least. Injuries could bring more, but as of right now, 2 losses is probably put the stat. So pick the under, get yourself some money at plus 120. And if you wanted, even take it, a step further, at plus 275, hit the exact win total at 9. I think it's a safe bet. I think you could possibly see your return pretty easily on that one. Next on the list here is Mississippi State. The Bulldogs, they got their win total at 6.5. Vegas is favoring 6 here, and so is CBS. They say 6 wins. They say 5 wins. They say this is a 5-win Mississippi State football team with wins at Southeastern Louisiana, Arizona, Western Michigan, Kentucky, and Southern Miss. Now, I don't think Kentucky is a W here for Mississippi State. They have losses at LSU or at home against LSU, on the road against South Carolina, at home against Alabama, on the road against Arkansas, on the road against Auburn, on the road against Texas A&M, and at home to Ole Miss. Now, if you wanted to switch Kentucky and Auburn, I would not be opposed to that, having them beat
Yeah.
Auburn on the road instead of beating Kentucky at home. But I 5 wins is probably right for this team. I don't see it getting much better than that. And the under is not going to get you any money, but I don't see them winning 7 games. Just no way.
Yeah, I think I agree here. I mean, they're a team that um one, like, their program suffered just a huge setback when Mike Leach passed,
Mm.
and, like, they just haven't really been able to recover from that because, I mean, when something like that happens to a program, you're and now it's up to, like, the next man up to kind of recover the program and bring it back to what it once was, and that's just not really happening for Mississippi State right now. They're not recruiting as well as they used to be able to. They're not getting they don't have the same offensive talent. Their coaches aren't as good. I mean, we're kind of seeing the decay of Mississippi State right now, and I'm hoping that, coach being on the hot seat, maybe we can get someone else in there. Um, I hear Cliff Kingsbury's looking for a job. Uh, so you're talking about air raid offense, there you go. So I think Mississippi State is going to be really bad this year, but I think I agree with you here. Probably like 5 wins. I mean, they have a cakewalk schedule up until they get to the back half of the SEC. So
Yeah, had that.
I think I'm with you. 5 wins,
Yeah, I
maybe four. Like maybe four. They might not. They might lose to Kentucky and to Auburn. So
yeah.
I can
I
see
mean,
four.
yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, look, Zach Arnett, the interim head coach here for the Bulldogs, is going to keep that air raid
Yeah,
offense. Will Rogers is still going to be back there slinging it. Um, it's
yeah,
just unfortunately, I mean, you have 2 huge games on the road that probably are losses, and that's Arkansas and South Carolina and Texas A&M. Those are probably your 3 losses on the road that you're going to suffer. And having Alabama at home is not going to help you, and LSU at home not going to help you. They're just too talented. You can't hang. It's just going to be rough for them. So yeah, I think 4 wins is possible with losing to Kentucky as well, and then you have nothing but non-conference wins for the Bulldogs, which I could definitely see happening. But again, this is a team that we don't know how this coach is going to handle this group of guys. And like you said, being just 1 year removed from Mike Leach is still fresh. It's really fresh,
yeah,
and I think that doesn't really help um, the mental state of this team. I could see this being a disastrous season for Mississippi State. I don't think they're making a bowl game, and I think that it's just, I mean, there's no way they're winning 7 games. I'm sorry, Bulldog fans.
yeah. They're just not winning 7 games. It sucks. Maybe they get to six. Like I could see them getting to six. Like if they have a great season. Um, so I mean, I'm thinking five, probably four. Like it's just not looking good.
This 5 is pushing it. I mean, beating Kentucky
Yeah,
at home is a stretch, I think, for them. Next on the list is Missouri. Vegas is favoring the under 6.5 here for the Tigers. Um, and right now, CBS has them as a 5-win football team as well. They have their only wins being against South Dakota, Middle Tennessee, Memphis, South Carolina at home, and Vanderbilt on the road. This could be a 4-win football team. I think South Carolina is not going to be a win for them either. I think a lot of people are underestimating South Carolina's talent they've got offensively, and I think if their defense can match the intensity, I think that that's a team that could sneak up and have a good season themselves. The losses they have for Missouri are at home against Kansas State, at home against LSU, on the road against Kentucky and Georgia, at home against Tennessee, at home against Florida, and on the road against Arkansas. Now that Florida could be a W. I
yeah,
just think that these teams are. I think Florida and them are very evenly matched as far as talent goes. But this team doesn't have a quarterback. They've got 3 quarterbacks that we could see taking snaps for them. Brady Cook, Sam Horn, or Jake Garcia could be taking snaps for the Tigers at some point this year. They lost its top receiver, and they haven't really used the recruit they got last year, Luther Burden III, in the right ways. They haven't really figured out how to incorporate him into the offense. He was supposed to be their stud. Obviously, they got a huge recruit commit from top defensive lineman in the country for next year's recruiting class. Stole them away from OU technically.
yeah.
I mean, but I don't think this is going to really help them at all this year, and it might not even help them
He'll end
next
up.
year.
He'll end up at OU. I'll
Yeah,
say that.
he'll probably switch. He'll probably be talking to Brent Venables again in December, and we'll probably see that flip. But I mean, I think Eli Drinkwitz. I mean, he's an okay head coach, but it's gonna be a bad year for Missouri fans again. You know, I think that they could possibly lose to South Carolina too, and this could be a 4-win football team. Um, what are your thoughts on these Tigers and the tough schedule they've got?
No, I think I agree with you. They're probably going to win like 4 games. I'm not big on Missouri right now. Kind of upset with them and their fan base. So not really, not really big on the Tigers this year. I think they're probably going to win like 3 or 4 games. They're going to get clapped by most teams in the SEC. They'll beat Vanderbilt. Um, they're not going to beat South Carolina. So
Yeah, I think
yeah,
you're.
three, maybe 4 wins.
Yeah, the fourth win is going to be iffy. I think they could lose to Memphis or Vanderbilt. Memphis is not really a joke,
Yeah,
and Vanderbilt, they're pretty bad. Well, they're at the bottom of this list. We'll see how many wins they've got them at. But right now, I agree. I think this is a 4-win football team, man. I just don't see them beating it. They're not going to beat Kansas State. I don't see that happening. I know that's like one of their. I think that's like maybe their week 1 or week 2 game. Um, it's early on. I know that. I just and Kansas State. I don't really like them either as like a really good team, but they're better than Missouri. So that's
yeah.
that's an L. Um, yeah. I don't. I mean, again, the Florida game probably a toss up, but I mean, edge to Florida just talent wise. And they've got more security in their important positions. When you have 3 guys battling it out for quarterback and you really still don't know who could be taking snaps, that's never a good sign. I don't care who you are. That's just leading to multiple issues. So I say, yeah, 4 or 5 wins, 5 at the most. Next on the list, Ole Miss. Um, they've got the win total at 7.5. Vegas is favoring the over. They think this is an 8-win Ole Miss football team. Um, the wins they've got them at here on CBS are Mercer, Tulane, Georgia Tech, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, Louisiana Monroe, and Mississippi State, with losses at Alabama, at home against LSU, on the road against Auburn, and on the road against Georgia. Um, boy. Um, I mean, Jackson Dart probably going to be the starting quarterback. Spencer Sanders probably backing him up, um, is what it looks like at this point.
Are we sure?
I'm I'm pretty sure. Let's see.
I would think Spencer Sanders is the better option.
I mean, I would agree with that considering what I've seen. Yeah, they announced Jackson Dart will be the starter.
Oh my
So
god.
we'll see how long it lasts, though. I think at some point we will see Spencer get in there. He is very talented, and I think that with the running back he's got with Quishon Judkins back there, I think that's a thing that he didn't have the last 2 years of Oklahoma State, was a solid offensive line and running game to help him out. And I think that was kind of why I thought he would be the starter coming into the season. But I think that they made Jackson Dart some promises, and I think that this is kind of what they're doing, is fulfilling those promises and telling him, yeah, you're the starter. And then when he ends up stinking it up, I think Spencer will take this team the rest of the way. Look, I don't know if I would say they're going to beat Tulane. I wouldn't even think
Yeah,
that
that's what I'm worried about.
I don't even know if they would beat Texas A&M at home. Um, I mean, I know I shouldn't be buying into the Texas A&M hype here, but they're definitely in a better spot than they were last year. So I mean, I think that's a really tough one. I think you could probably switch Auburn and Texas A&M. I think they can beat Auburn. Um, I mean, 8 wins. They have 8 wins here. I mean, I think 8 wins is probably right for Ole Miss. I just don't know if the right wins here are listed. You know what I'm saying? I think I mean, if you want to take the under and smash the 7, I wouldn't be mad.
I think I would take the under and smash the 7, especially with Tulane.
And
I
Arkansas is
think
on there
Tulane could
too.
definitely, yeah. And Arkansas, like I think you gotta smash that at 7.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think 7 is probably where you have it here for Ole Miss, and it could be 6 if things don't go their way on the road against Tulane. I mean, on the road against Tulane, who's gonna be a good team, folks. Just ask USC how that went for them. I mean,
Yeah.
I know
Ask
they,
OU. I mean, yeah,
yeah,
like
yeah, two years ago. I mean, that game
scared
was
us.
was a yard away from probably going OT. Um,
I mean, that is a good program that's
yeah,
going to like be like on the bubble of top 25
yeah.
for
I mean,
years.
and yes, they lost their starting running back. But they still got Chris Pratt back there, and he's decent. And I think that they got enough guys off that USC win to transfer over there to reload that backfield to a decent state. It's not going to be Spears good,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's going to be good. It's going to be sufficient enough. The big question for Tulane's that offensive line and their defense as a whole. If their defense can't stop a nosebleed, you can't ask Chris Pratt to go up there and throw up 45 points a game. Just unrealistic. So it's going to really lean on that Tulane defense. And we'll get a good look at them against Ole Miss early this season. I think that's going to be a game that I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on for sure. But I think, yeah, smash the under here. I think this is a 7-win football team. If Spencer Sanders was a starting quarterback here, I might say that 8 wins is possible because I think that his mobility, Jackson Dart's a statue, dog. Like, I mean, that dude can't run. I mean, Spencer Sanders got that speed, brother. Can you imagine him and Judkins running the speed option? I mean, that's dangerous. I mean, I don't know why Lane Kiffin would not have him as the starter, but I think it's because they promised Jackson Dart, you're going to be the starter this year no matter what. He's a transfer. You know, and if Spencer decides to stay after this year and be like a 6-year senior next year and start for Ole Miss, I mean, definitely can do it. I think that he's gonna miss out on playing with Judkins though, and I think that's a big part of this offense. And I think that having them in the backfield together is a great combination, and I think that Ole Miss fans will be clamoring for it by midseason.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you here. I think this is probably a 7-win football team. But Spencer Sanders, especially, like if he were starting week 1, I might say 8 wins.
Yeah,
Just because I think he's the better quarterback than Jackson Dart, and I agree with you. If he had his plans to play with Judkins, it'd be a lot easier for him.
yeah.
But it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So
So I mean, that's what that is. Oh, okay, here we go. South Carolina. Here you go. Here's your South Carolina game chickens here. Um, Vegas has the win total at 6 here. 6 solid wins here for South Carolina, and they are favoring the over. They think this is a 7-win football team. Let's see how many they got listed here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They got them at 8 wins here on CBS, which I think is not far fetched for the
not at all.
Gamecocks. But here's where I disagree. Here you go, Zach. They got wins against North Carolina. That's not going to be a win. Sorry, brother. Win against Furman. That's a W. Mississippi State, W. Florida, W. On the road against Texas A&M, W. I like that. My Jacksonville State, the Battle of the Gamecocks. They'll be playing each other. The Jacksonville State Gamecocks will travel to Columbia, South Carolina to take on. It will be the Battle of the Gamecocks, but I think Jacksonville
Yeah,
State gets slammed. And then they have wins against Vanderbilt and a win against Kentucky, which I think is going to be a toss-up. They got losses, and here's where I got problems. They got losses at Georgia, at Tennessee, which I'm fine with. The loss I don't like is at Missouri, and then they have a
no way.
loss, and they have a loss against Clemson, which I also could see being a win like last year. Look, I mean, this is a team where Spencer Rattler is going to have a new offensive coordinator again. So that's gonna, again, throw a wrench. New playbook, new plays. They have. He has a good connection with Antwain Wells Jr. And again, they got the Arkansas tight end transfer Trey Knox out there because C0ner left, so they got to replace him with somebody. And
Sorry,
the defense is really the question here for the Gamecocks, right? Unproven defense. It'll be Shane Beamer's 3rd year. Head coaching this team. I like him. I liked his dad. I like him a lot. I think they're gonna cruise the over here. I think 6 is way low to put the South Carolina team at. But do I like all these wins that are listed? No. I think you replace North Carolina with Missouri, and I think that Kentucky game is going to be a tough one, and I think that Texas A&M game is going to be a tough one. I mean, could this be a 7-win football team instead of 8 like they've got? Yes, this could be a 6-win football team, and you could see them hitting that 6. But I think that they have enough talent offensively to overcome their defense's shortcomings when it comes to teams like Florida and and Texas A&M. I just don't know about Kentucky. I think that's going to be a really. I mean, they have them at home, which is a good thing. But we talked about Kentucky earlier. We really like them as well. The SEC, these mid-level teams, man, they're going to be boxing it out for these couple wins. These games are going to be good in the middle of the season when you got these mid-tier teams. There's not going to be any conference or college playoff implications or anything, not even probably conference title implications with a lot of these teams when it comes to the middle of the season, but the games are gonna be close and they're gonna be great watches. And I think that that's kind of what we're looking at when we talk about some of these mid-level SEC teams.
Yeah, like Kentucky, South Carolina, that's a game. I mean, that's a great game to watch. And I think I'm with you that this could be anywhere from a 6 to an 8 win football team. I think they could stretch all the way to 9 wins if they could upset North Carolina.
Yeah.
Um, but I just don't see them doing that. So I'm thinking with you probably 7 wins, probably I could see 8 wins. Kentucky is kind of in the air for me, like you said, because I'm big on Kentucky, but I'm also, as I've shown in this show, I'm big on South Carolina too.
Hmm.
So we'll see where we go. I think this is probably an 8 win team.
Yeah, I mean, and to be an 8-win team, I think you just switch Missouri and North Carolina, and you look at teams like Texas A&M and Kentucky, and you just hope those games go their way. Because if they don't, no one's going to
Yeah,
be surprised. And
yeah,
I think that that's kind of where you're looking at is you're just kind of banking on their overall offensive talent to overcome the poor defenses of Texas A&M and Kentucky, which we already know that those are not the strengths. Even though Mark Stoops is a defensive, first kind of guy, we know Kentucky struggles tackling in open space. We know they don't have a great secondary. And we know that they're going to lean on Devin Leary to be that offense the whole entire season. If that offensive line doesn't gel, that's a problem. We know South Carolina's got dogs on the defensive line. You just ask Clemson how that went for them. I mean, it's just this is a team where, again, like you said, this is one of those teams where it's an enigma, but you're not looking at them winning the conference or being a college football playoff team. You're looking for them to probably fight for a January bowl.
yeah. I think I agree. I think they're definitely bowl bound.
Oh yeah.
But uh, it'll be tough. It'll be tough. It'll be
Um.
tough to get into January for them.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Tennessee is next on this list. And they've got the over under at 9 wins for Tennessee, and CBS says don't touch this one. They think 9 is probably exactly where they're supposed to be. Here are the 9 wins they've got. They got Virginia, Austin P, Florida, UTSA, South Carolina, Texas A&M, UConn, Missouri, and Vanderbilt. I don't have a problem with that. Those are all very, very possible wins for Tennessee, and they should be. I don't see anybody that I just named that should be a loss for
Yeah,
Tennessee at all. The losses they have for them are on the road against Alabama, at home against Georgia, and on the road against Kentucky. They got an L on the road in Lexington, which again would be a great win for Kentucky. I just don't see it happening. Pick the over
yeah.
9 here. This is a 10-win football team.
10 wins.
This is, I mean, add Kentucky to this with losses at Georgia and Alabama. That should be how this season goes for Tennessee, and I think picking them any less than 10 wins would be foolish. I think that they're just better than Kentucky. I know that's a hostile environment to go in. I know it's a rivalry game. I know that's an in-state, a border state, kind of war between those two teams. But I mean, and Lexington's going to be packed. But I just don't think Devin Leary and company are going to be able to beat Joe Milton.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I don't see them going into Lexington. They should win. They should come out with a comfortable win. I think. I mean, that's a good Kentucky team. Their defense is going to be good, but Joe Milton should come out there with 4 or 5 touchdowns. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah,
And this is a 10-2 football team. And if you want to make money, hit that over. I mean, I would bet exactly 10 wins.
yeah, I agree. I don't know if they're listed on here as well. Let's take a peek here. Exact win, Tennessee. They said we're not listing those motherfuckers. All right, that's all right. I mean, look, I get it. Um,
Yeah,
but I mean, I don't think it's a push. I think this is over 9 all the way. Barring injury, over 9. I think if you can stay healthy, I think 10 wins is doable.
yeah, I agree with that.
Next on the list, you know 'em, you love them, you want them. It's the Texas A&M Aggies. They've got the win total For the Aggies at 8.5, Vegas is favoring the 8 here. They said this is probably an 8-win football team, but CBS says, fuck 8, this is a 6-win football team at best. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, they got 5 wins. They got 5 wins here for Texas A&M. Not looking great for Jimbo Fisher and Bobby Petrino, the dynamic duo, looking like they're gonna get their dicks kicked in. Here are the wins they've got for the Aggies. They have New Mexico as a win, UL Monroe as a win, Auburn as a win, Mississippi State as a win, and Abilene Christian as a win. I mean, those should be wins. And here are the losses they have for Texas A&M. On the road against Miami, Arkansas at home, Alabama at home, Tennessee on the road, South Carolina at home, on the road against Ole Miss, and on the road against LSU. I hate to say it, but I think that 5 wins is probably it.
That's probably it.
I think this is one of the most accurate win totals that we've seen on this list so far. I don't have a problem with any of these losses. The Miami game, I don't know. I mean, again, this is one of those like early week games, and I mean, as much as I love my boy Mario Cristobal, even though he left, my Oregon Ducks, I just don't know if he's got Miami good enough to beat A&M on the road week 1. I don't know. I mean, that game's gonna be one of those games that's gonna be close, but it's gonna be ugly football. I mean, it is not gonna be football you're gonna be like, this is pristine. It's gonna be like, oh boy, who's gonna turn the ball over less than 5 times? I mean, that's kind of what you're probably looking at in that game, or you're looking at both teams that can't convert third downs worth a damn. I mean, this might be a punt fest. Because I think that, I don't think Miami's taken a giant jump in the right direction. I think Texas A&M is definitely on the decline here. They got a good receiving room, but I mean, who's going to be the quarterback? Is it going to be Connor Weigman, or is it going to be Max Johnson? I mean, both of those guys, everyone was sucking Max Johnson's dick last year, and look how that ended up. Ask Appalachia State if they respect Max Johnson. I mean, come on,
with
man.
the Appalachian State. Let's go.
I mean, having this team listed at 8.5 wins is insane. I mean, this is definitely one of those like, we're just banking on Bobby Petrino to come in on his motorcycle and get us to 8 wins. There's no way, man. There's just no way.
5 wins.
I mean, this is a 5-win football team. I mean, I guarantee you they've got them listed on here as one of the 20 teams. Yep, you want to bet on 5 wins?
What?
5 wins at plus 1,400. Slam that bitch, motherfucker. Slam it.
And guess what? They can't fire Jimbo.
No, they can't. They can't fire Jimbo. They're locked in, brother. This is a nightmare. This is a nightmare for them. The fact that the 8-win total on here is at plus 280 and the 5 wins is plus 1,400. Slam the 5. I mean, for the love of God, slam the 5 on this. I do not see them winning more than 5 games. If they do, I mean, it's gonna be Miami's the only team I see added to this list. They've got them at 4 wins right here, right? No, I'm at 5. So I mean, that would be 6 wins if they beat Miami. I mean, which is still plus 600. I think 5 is it. I think at plus 1,400, if you pair that, which I don't know if you can. I don't think you can parlay exact win totals because I think I tried to. Can you? Let's find out. Yeah, you cannot. You cannot parlay those. But still, I mean, we already said smash the 7 and or more for Colorado. Smash the 5 for exact wins for Texas A&M. I mean, make yourself some money. At plus 1,400, I mean, it's a bargain. Throw a tenner on that bitch. I mean, I am telling you right now, you won't regret it. Give yourself a cool $150. If you wanted to make some big money, I mean, you could throw 50 on there for $750. But I don't know if I'm that confident. I would say if you want to just make a little bit of cash, throw a 10 on there. I think you would be more than happy with the results. Because there's no way they're hitting this 8.5. It's going to be a disgraceful year for Jimbo. They're going to hope that they're going to buy him out, but they ain't got the money for that. Their NIL's in the trash because they tried to file as a nonprofit organization. I mean, it's just a disaster down there in College Station. So I'd say 5-win max for the Texas A&M Aggies.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that leaves us with the basement of the SEC. Last team on the list here is Vanderbilt. That's right, the Commodores. They have the under, or they have the over under at 3.5 wins for Vanderbilt. That's right, 3.5. And they said pick the under, baby. They said this is a 3-win football team. They said if they grab 4 wins, we're popping champagne, brother. Here is the 3 wins they have for Vanderbilt, and it's all non-conference wins, baby. It's Hawaii, Alabama A&M, and UNLV, with no wins in conference. It's gonna be rough for the
Yeah.
Commodores. They also have a non-conference loss at Wake Forest, which I don't disagree with that either. Of course, losses at Kentucky, Missouri, Florida, Georgia, Ole Miss, Auburn, South Carolina, and Tennessee. Smash the under at 130. I think this is a 3-win football team. You want to make some money? Go ahead, smash the under 3.5. This is a piss fest Vanderbilt team to close out this conversation.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, can we just get rid of them and bring Baylor with us to the SEC or something? Like,
Yeah, I mean, talk about a team that
I think
needs.
I just full on agree. 3
Yeah,
wins.
yeah, I think 3 is it, and there's not even anything to say about that. It's just they're bad. They are bad.
Yeah, they're bad.
They and here's just to let you know here, red zone numbers from last year. They were awful. They managed just 24 touchdowns inside the 20-yard line, which was 86 in the country. And they said, that's not going to change, brother. They can't punch it in the end zone worth a turkey sandwich. And that's going to wrap up our SEC totals here for this episode. And I think we did a damn good job at covering these Power 5 win totals for you. I think you are set up to win some money for sure. If you just listen to us, we will lead you to the promised land. I promise you.
You'll make a lot of money, guaranteed. In fact, I am a financial advisor, and I would say that you need to spend all your money on this.
Yeah, I would say this is definitely set up for us to make some money. So send that money up to Kansas. Send that money somewhere where betting is legal. I got a buddy up in Kansas. I'm sending some money up to, and I'm saying here, I'm smashing that over 7 wins on Colorado. I'm smashing the under. I'm smashing the exact win total of 5 on Texas A&M. I am smashing the exact win total on OU at probably 11 or 10. I mean, this is what I'm talking about right here. This is the type of stuff we talk about year in and year out.
Let's just, since we're at the end of the Power 5 win totals, let's just go ahead and let's just give our we've had a lot of different playoff predictions. We've posted a few, but going into the preseason, we're about a week away. Let's go ahead and give the official playoff predictions here.
Okay, I'm with you. Let's do it. Let's do it. Go ahead. Give me your 4 teams, Zach. Go ahead.
All right, I'll do it. So, I flipped and flopped a little bit on different conferences, but ultimately, what I think is going to happen in this playoff is you're going to have Alabama, you're going to have Georgia, and these are not in order. I'll put them in order. How about
that? Okay.
Number 1 seed is going to be Michigan.
Oh.
I think Michigan's going to come out number 1 seed. I think they're going to go 13-0, wipe the Big Ten. They're going to beat Ohio State. They're going to beat Penn State.
And if you want to bet on that, it's plus 330 for Michigan to go undefeated.
I think they will go 13-0 and lock up the number 1 seed. Number 2 is going to be Alabama. They're going to also be 13-0, but they're going to have a scary game against Georgia. Number 3 is going to be Georgia. Georgia's going to go 12-0. They're going to lose to Alabama in the SEC championship. And number 4 is going to be Oklahoma. Oklahoma's going to go 13-0 and win the Big 12.
And if you want to put money on that, folks, that line is at plus 700 for the Sooners.
Actually, I'll take that back. They're going to go 12-1 and win the Big 12.
Okay. All right. There you go. I mean, look. I mean, that's a good 4. I'll give you mine here, and you can ream me for this. Here's the order I've got. Number 1, I've got Alabama. Number 2, I've got my Oregon Ducks. I think my Ducks have what it takes this year to, and the schedule is kind of in their favor this year, to be honest. If they can beat Utah and Washington we'll be just fine. We'll have to play USC in the Pac-12 championship game. I think we got their number as well. They can't stop a nosebleed, dog. You think Bo Nix isn't going to score against that USC defense? You are crazy. And I think that they have locked up that number 2 spot due to the fact that they're just they're just gonna run the table here. And beating Oregon State's going to be a big win for them too, because I think they're going to have a good season too. I think their schedule kind of lends themselves above the rest of these teams I'm about to list here. The number 3 team I've got here, and this is purely out of just the love I have, is OU. I have OU at the 3 spot here, and I have them, like you said, probably 12-1. But I think that really the surprise of the year is going to be Georgia's drop off here. I think that they lose 2 games. And I think that that's what's going to keep them on the outside looking in, because my 4th team, baby, and this is the team that's my shocker team, and this is the one that probably is going to get the most hate here. But I got Florida State coming in at number 4, baby. I mean, they're already starting off the preseason at that 5 spot, which I think is very generous to them. But I think this ACC is weak this year. I think that they're going to have challenges against North Carolina. They're going to have a challenge against Clemson if they've got to play either of those teams. But I don't think that they have to play one of them in the regular season.
Jeez, you just have a full-on repeat of the 2000 season. You have Florida State and OU both being top dogs. I mean,
and I think that Florida State's season has to go off to a great start. They got to beat LSU week 1. That's gonna be the biggest thing for them, is they have to beat LSU in that first game, or else I think their shot is done. I think that that's a lot of pressure.
yeah,
But I think that's the game you got to look at. If they can get that out of the way, and they can beat Clemson, they won't have to play North Carolina until the ACC championship game. So those are the 2 games you got to look at for Florida State. I think they take care of the rest of their schedule. Boston College win, Southern Miss win, Virginia Tech win, Syracuse and Duke and Wake Forest and Pitt all wins, Miami a win, North Alabama a win, and of course, rivalry game against Florida, not easy, but I think that considering how bad Florida is, I think that's a win. So literally it's going to come down to that LSU game week 1, and it's going to come down to beating Clemson in week 4. Um,
so you think the Big Ten's gonna kind of eat itself up? You think?
yeah,
I noticed no
I
Big
mean,
Ten teams.
no Big Ten team. Only, I mean, now look, if Florida State loses in week 1, obviously I'm going to replace them with Ohio State. I have a lot more faith in Ohio State to get the job done than I have Michigan to be back where they were at. I think that Michigan's got a tough road ahead. Not super tough. I think you having them at the 1 spot is possible, but they've got a decently easy schedule. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. I mean, you're not going to really have a chance at a loss until that Penn State game on November 11th. I mean,
Yep.
I think you're looking at that and the Ohio State game being the 2 losses Michigan suffers, and that's what's going to put Ohio State in that conversation instead of them. Because as much as I love Penn State, I don't think they're going to be able to hang. I mean, being a top 10 team is great for them, but I think you're looking at, Ohio State just got to beat Notre Dame and Penn State and Michigan. I mean, those are big wins for them, and they can do it. And I think that we just have to trust the quarterback situation in Columbus, and I trust it more, not more than I trust J.J. McCarthy, but I trust it more than I trust Michigan's team as a whole. Because I think if you're looking at team talent between Ohio State and Michigan right now, Ohio State still got the edge, even if their quarterback isn't better than J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, I think I agree. So we got the playoff prediction. I'll go ahead and give you who's going to win this natty and how this whole
Ooh,
scenario is going to fall out. I mean, so I have the 1 seed and the 4 seed, Oklahoma or Michigan against Oklahoma. I got OU beating Michigan. I think OU's going to the natty. And then I got the 2 and 3 seed rematch of the SEC championship, Alabama and Georgia. I think Alabama comes out with it again. When's that? And I think we have an OU Alabama natty, and that will be a fun one. That's a lot of crimson, a lot of crimson.
yeah, it is.
Um, but I'm going with the Sooners every year. They're my pick every year.
Yeah, we
They're going
like
to continue to be my pick every year.
Homerville, baby.
They're going to be my pick every year.
I mean, yeah, no surprises from you. For me, obviously, I have Alabama playing Florida State right now. I have Florida State losing that game, got Alabama advancing. Then I got my Ducks playing a very stout OU team. Um, I mean, look, baby. I mean, I love OU to death. Um, I think they're looking great. Um, could they beat my Ducks? It would depend. How's the defense looking heading into this? If you have to be 12-1 to be in this spot, the defense has to be looking great. And my Ducks love to fall short. They love to trip on themselves in these games. So I think again, I hate to say this, but I think OU Alabama is probably where I'm going with this. I hate
There
to
we
say it.
go. This is this show is all
I
on
hate to.
Alabama.
God damn
OU.
it! But I'm picking the Crimson Tide. I think this is their year. I think OU once again comes up short in a national championship to an SEC team. It's going to be rough. And I don't think it's. I think it's going to be shades of Georgia TCU. I think it could be 63-13. I think this could be a slaughter.
Yeah,
Um, as much as you
definitely.
want to clutch your pearls here for your Sooners, I think this is a buzzsaw of an Alabama team coming in here, and you can rip me for that, but I think that this is their year. I think that Alabama, going undefeated, you're obviously not going to get a lot of money back in return if you pick them to go undefeated. They're at plus 380. Um, but I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if Jalen Milroe and company get the job done. It's Nick Saban. I mean, what do you really expect? You can't keep a man down this long, and I think that Kirby Smart's about to get his comeuppance, and I think that he's about to get a big taste of what it's like to have a quarterback that's unproven. It's going to be a rough ride for Georgia fans because they're going to lose the two games that they think they should win. I think that it comes down to those two that we talked about, and I think that they come out with an L here. And it's rough because they're like, oh, the defense can carry us, and I just think that you look at the way that this schedule goes out for them. Again, not a tough one. The quarterback has a easy schedule until you get to the last two games of the SEC when it's Ole Miss and Tennessee back to back. Both of those games are not going to be easy. I think they beat Ole Miss, but I think Tennessee is probably
Yeah,
an L, and you lose in the SEC championship game to Alabama. And I think that that's kind of what you're looking at here for Georgia. Not a bad season for them. I just don't see them making the college playoff with two losses this time.
oh, yeah. So it looks like this podcast is all in on an Alabama OU
Yeah,
natty.
I don't. What are
Um,
we doing?
the
What?
opposite picks on who's going to win that, but
I mean,
yours is a lot more logical than emotional as opposed to mine.
yeah.
So
And speaking of emotional, what I'm emotional about here is as we wrap up this episode, which obviously these have ran long considering what we've had to do with win totals and stuff. But these are important information people need to know. Make smart bets. Make your money back. Make some money for your family. Put these predictions in perspective. And we have a winning mentality here. We don't take losses lightly. We don't want you to make
yeah,
ill-advised decisions here. And we think we know what we're doing here. And look, I had a 63% win percentage against the spread last year, and this is not even the spread. These are win totals. I mean, this isn't even by an individual game basis. So this is actually kind of more inclined to be right than it is wrong when it comes to win totals than picking specific games. So. Let's move into these last two topics real quick. We're going to touch on these jerseys because I love these jerseys. Air Force coming out with these beautiful jerseys. Take a look, folks. I mean, these are fantastic uniforms. The silver helmets, the silver numbers, the all white jerseys. I mean, these chrome helmets are to die for. Just fantastic there. Let me get you the look at the helmet here. This helmet is nice. Now this is the Doolittle Raiders homage. The Doolittle Bombers here. No, this is not a reference to Oppenheimer. No, they didn't do that for this reason. But these are slick. I mean, these are slick
yeah,
looking uniforms, and I am looking ready for them to pull these babies out. I don't know if they're pulling this out for any rivalry games they've got on the schedule, but they are looking nice. And I have to say, way better than a lot of the ones we looked at last week.
yeah. I agree. These are looking good.
And did you want to touch on any NFL preseason stuff? I know your Dallas Cowboys got a chance to look at Deuce Vaughn. I know that we got a chance to look at. We had a lot of ties. We had a lot of ties in the preseason. So the 13-13
Yeah,
tie and an 18-18 tie. Give me your thoughts on that, since I have literally not been paying attention because I just don't care about the preseason.
Yeah, I haven't been paying too much attention either to the preseason. Zach Wilson looks good, which is good for the Jets post Aaron Rodgers. Seems like their experiment putting Aaron Rodgers there is looking good. Cowboys, quite touch on them. I mean, defense obviously looks fantastic, but what I'm really looking at is the running back room going into this season and seeing how Tony Pollard can kind of lead as running back one here. I believe he was pretty much running back one last season anyways, but now he's got like Deuce Vaughn back there, so that's gonna be interesting. No more Zeke, so it's gonna be a different change, gonna be a different vibe in the running back room. We'll see how that works. Yeah, big ups there.
I mean, no, I'm
Um,
as a Patriots fan, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's exactly what we need. I was glad with it. I was glad with him. I think that his in between the tackles is meant for the AFC East and not the NFC East. I think it's just kind of meant for
yeah,
that kind of game up there. And I think being a cold weather running back like he was in Ohio State, I think is definitely up his alley more than being in that dome and being in a climate controlled environment. I think that it just kind of it helps you guys because, like you said, you have Darren Sproles 2.0 back there and Deuce Vaughn. I mean, that guy is looking
yeah,
fantastic. He doesn't blow a knee out, you're fine. I think that if he can stay injury free, you're looking at the running back of the future for your Cowboys. I think we've got our running back that we need to take the pressure off of Mac Jones. As far as him and Ramondre Stevenson being the 1-2 punch there, I mean, that is dangerous as far as in between the tackles goes. We need a speed back really bad, but I mean, if we can run the ball up the middle and our offensive line is playing well, don't sleep on my Patriots to be that number 2 team in the AFC East.
yeah. I like how you said number two.
I don't. The Jets look good. They got Brees Hall in. They got Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson. They're looking
Yeah,
great. I can't peek against them. I think we're better than Miami because I think Miami's going to get hit with the injury bug again. They can't seem to get away from it. The Bills look like the Bills. That's going to be tough. But I think that again. I think that when you're talking about Coach Belichick and what he's able to bring to the table, if we can't out talent them, we'll out coach them. And I think that this is kind of the key pieces we need to fill. We've got them filled, so I think that we have a good chance of being that
yeah.
second team, whoever the first team
I mean,
is.
sorry to burst your bubble here, but I think that the Patriots are going to be the best team in the league at being last in their division. Um,
Which I mean, it could be the case. That division is so stacked now. I hate it. I hate
yeah,
because we were just
that division. I mean, listen, you're on the other side of it now.
yeah,
Like, right?
yeah.
You were literally running the division for like 15
Oh
years, and
yeah,
now,
it's bound to happen. Change is bound to happen, and Tom Brady couldn't play till he's 90. So
yeah. I
let
mean,
him.
listen, I'm as like an OU guy, I've had dominance for years, and then witnessed the fall off. I mean, you're welcome,
Yeah,
welcome.
it's time. I'm gonna be I'm be drinking a lot during this season.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be coping.
yeah. I drank a lot during last year's college football season. It was a lot of alcohol consumed.
But hopefully you're popping champagne bottles at the end this year, if things roll your way. So we'll see how
Well,
that
all I
goes.
know is that Arkansas State game, I'm gonna have six before kickoff, and
Yep.
we'll see how that goes. But I might end up having 18 after
Yeah.
kickoff, depending on how bad it goes.
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps up most of our pre-college stuff. Next week, we'll give you our picks for week one. We have Navy and Notre Dame, and we've got San Jose State and USC as kind of the highlights of next week's Saturday slate. The rest are kind of MAC teams and Sun Belt teams getting kicked off. But we'll try to convene before Saturday. We'll try to slip it in. If not, it'll be um, well afterwards, and we'll just give you our actual week one because I mean week zero's upon us next week. I call it week zero because we only got two really good games to watch, and I don't even know if that San Jose State
Yeah,
game's gonna be any good. But I'm rooting for them Spartans, baby.
yeah,
But yeah, so I appreciate you taking the time today, brother, and we'll try to reconvene sometime next week. Okay.
yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, for me and Zach, this has been episode number 42. We'll see you for 43. And college football season's upon us, folks. And we'll catch you in the next one.